I'm going to adjust some stuff because it's not all in frame.
Some speakers and sponsors in there.
Just speaker. All right, guys, it's on you guys. Just speak nice and loud.
What?
I know you, man. You can definitely speak loud.
All right, well, my name's David Lingenfelter. I'm the president of the Delaware Valley chapter of the Cloud Security Alliance. Josh asked me to come here and kind of talk to everybody. We've been trying to build this chapter a little bit and just want to continue building it more. If you're not familiar with the Cloud Security Alliance, the group is a not-for-profit group that they build basically policies and procedures, baselines, best practices for teaching businesses how to get into cloud and cloud providers how to provide cloud. Basically trying to help the two together. So that's the Cloud Security Alliance has been around for about 5 years. I've been involved for 4.5 of those years. I wasn't one of the original members, but pretty close. I wrote some of the original documents. I'm also the chairperson for the Mobile Working Group, which ties back to my day job. I am the security officer for Firewall and Communications. Our product is MAS 360, which is a mobile device management product. So I've asked some people here to help me out today. So if you guys want to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Somebody start.
Hi, I'm Chris Rogers. I'm one of the partners at Interrail. We're a local ISP that serves kind of this area up through New York City.
Josh Marpet, one of the co-organizers of the conference here, and I'm a managing principal for Guarded Risk. We're a consultancy, and that's my day job. At night, I'm a superhero in a costume. I'm the VP of the Cloud Security Alliance Delaware Valley. I also work at BSides series of conferences all over the country and all over the world. I help them out in various capacities, whether directly running like this one, staff at various others, or advising a lot of others. I need to start a BSides. What do I do? And it's helped me a lot understand that in our industry, we've got a lot of different people and a lot of different ways of doing things. And in the cloud, where everything is more vaporous than ever, and I couldn't resist the pun, we need to have some standards, and the CSA, the Cloud Security Alliance, is the right organization to build those standards. So that's why I'm there.
I'm Janice Paulson. I'm the other co-organizer of Security BSides Delaware, and I'm
Shirts.
the director of marketing for the Cloud Security Alliance. So when we have events, I'm responsible for letting you all know about them. Our next event is February 18th in Philadelphia at the Mexican Post. Yes, you can find the information on that, right? My day job, I work as a security design analyst at hosting.com, large web hosting company, and I do our internal and external audits. And I interface with our customers to help them with their compliance needs.
And what they didn't tell you was that he has this small ISP, which, by the way, it's the Pentoo mirror. If you guys are playing with Pentoo Linux down in the wireless area, he's the mirror for Pentoo. And if you talk to Rick, if you talk to Zero Chaos, the guy that writes Pentoo, he goes, "Chris is awesome." Because I asked him for a mirror, he goes, "Is 240 gigs enough of bandwidth?" And Rick was like, "Crap, yes." And what she doesn't tell you is that the cloud control matrix from the Cloud Security Alliance, she practically lives with, because
It's really useful if you have any compliance needs whatsoever. It contains every single standard, and it puts it all together and cross-references it, and it's super, super useful. I recommend memorizing it, even though it's really
it's a
boring.
little excessive.
No, it needs to be memorized.
Damn it, I'm behind the times again.
If you need to justify why you want to do something at work, it's a lot easier to justify it through the compliance and business side. So you can say, I want the shiny new toy, and if we have the shiny new toy, it meets these requirements that we have to do anyway because we're in healthcare, or we're in finance, or we're in something. Cloud Security Alliance Cloud Control Matrix will help you explain that to your superiors.
Yeah, and then the Cloud Security Alliance has gone one step further. So the CCM ties back to a bunch of standards that are already ratified, whether it's ISO, COBIT, FISMA, NIST, a bunch of different ones. Cloud Security Alliance itself is partnered with a firm over in Europe called BSI who does certifications, and they've actually now created a certification process for cloud providers. So phase one of that was a self-certification. It's basically 250 questions based on Cloud Control Matrix that cloud providers would fill out themselves and put online and say, yay, I'm really good. The second one is actually going through, doing that questionnaire, and then having this consultant house come in and verify that you're following them. So we've created a new standard to be certified against.
When's the deadline for becoming more difficult? When it changes from self-assessment to must have a third party versus you should start doing it?
They're piloting it now.
Okay, so if you'd like to end up on the STAR registry with less extra work, do it now.
Do it now. Yeah, so the STAR registry is where you go and your stuff gets posted when you've done the self-certification.
Okay. That's good. So we're here because a lot of you are college students, and we're here because a lot of you are students. And if you're not a student, you're probably not in InfoSec. Because even if you've been 20 years in InfoSec, you're still learning. And I'm still learning.
Have you learned everything there is to know?
I can't answer.
Then you're learning. And we want to get more involved in the academic community. Our chapter is heavily, our mission is to bring together academic and business. And we want to talk to you.
I was getting.
Well, you were slow.
Whatever. Moderator.
Whatever.
Moderator.
So yeah, what we've been speaking about here is really the business side of it. Certifications, processes, the business side of working with clouds and being a cloud provider. But as Josh so kindly interrupted, I've been with the Cloud Security Alliance for nearly 5 years. It is extremely business focused. So people coming into and building cloud platforms, cloud businesses, are the people coming out of college because they understand the new technology. They want to use the new technology. They don't have the money to build their own infrastructures. So here's these infrastructures already built. But the problem is we don't have a lot of collegiate input into the Cloud Security Alliance. A lot of stuff's being taught at college levels about cloud and about modern infrastructure and lack of infrastructure. But we're not seeing that transition from the college thoughts and the college philosophy to the business side. We're only getting feedback from business people saying, we can't do that. That would be bad for business. So that's why we've kind of come together. My goal was to make the chapter a very educational chapter, focusing on educating not just business people, but bringing in collegiate people to help educate the business people on where the world is going. A lot of the chapters are focused on very business-focused things, whether it's certification processes or building policies and things like that. I want to do something different with our chapter, so we need a lot of input from people in academia. Do you have anything more to add, sir?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. I did want to kind of ask 3 business people here a couple questions about how they've seen problems with or issues with the cloud. So kind of one of the questions that I've had was, and we deal with this all the time, is what are some of the pitfalls when you get into cloud? What do you have to look out for? It's not buying a box and putting it into your data center anymore. So if you want to have, if you have a new project, a new concept, here, we want to do this. One of the things your boss, one of the things the CFO of the company can say is, put it in the cloud. It's cheaper. It's not necessarily cheaper. But what's some of the things you guys run into when you're dealing with the cloud when it comes to things that you wouldn't expect, especially not if you're building it in your infrastructure?
Question.
Yeah, I work for an insurance company over in Jersey.
Sure.
We run about 22 physical services.
Jersey, that's the other side of the Atlantic, right?
Okay.
Close enough.
But we have Rackspace as our email
Yep.
for hosted exchange. What some of the things we see is network connectivity issues.
Sure.
You know, and especially being an insurance company, they need their email.
Yep.
Also, loss of control. Like being with Rackspace, now other cloud providers probably do give me more access. Like Microsoft, I think they give me full admin to whatever instance being run on their server.
Yes,
But
as
at
well as half of
Rackspace,
their
they give me
employees.
their own control panel with their own controls, and sometimes I've run into, oh, we can't set it up that way because we're hosting X amount of companies.
Sure.
So I have a loss of control there, and it's nothing. And another part of it is there's nothing I can go to if the machine's down. I can't go to a certain spot and get that machine back up and running myself. I'm relying on other people.
Yep. Yeah, that's something that we've seen. My Linux guys complain about it all the time. Physical servers, you can go into the box and you can watch it boot up and you can watch it run through its boot cycle. You can't do that in a lot of cloud providers. Amazon is notorious for not giving you access to that. Rack spaces as well. But you guys run into that loss of control, loss of...
Well, as an employee of a cloud company, I can tell you that one of the things you need to look for is what flavor of cloud do you want. So cloud can mean you have webmail. That kind of cloud's existed for how long now? Quite a while. You don't have access to the webmail server if the webmail's down. You just log in, get your email, and that's it. What cloud can also mean that you have a VM instance on one or more hardware nodes, and it floats around and does its cloud thing. And it might live in one data center or another or many, and it might be replicated, it might be a single VM. So when you choose your cloud provider, you need to find out and communicate with your cloud provider what are your needs as a company. You want shell access, you want root admin to the operating system. Those options are available, but only if you communicate them. One of the biggest things that we see is lack of understanding of the division of responsibilities. So when you send something to the cloud, you're doing so because there's certain responsibilities that you don't want to handle in-house. You don't have the staffing, the time, or the desire to. But there's certain responsibilities that you may still have, and you need to be aware of what they are, and you need to be able to complete them so that you can make your business needs in the time that you need to make them.
I'm going to add on to you with the trouble, so I'm going to do both. I'm like two for the sucker. One of the problems that I see in cloud a lot is the loss of control, yes, but the loss of control after the fact. And by that I mean, oh my God, crap has happened. I need to forensically recover a mailbox. I need to figure out what happened to this. I need to, where did my data go? Can I revert back to a saved version? All the things that with a physical server or even a VM host where we have root or admin access, we can do these things, right? But in the cloud, it's very difficult to understand who's responsible for forensically recovering a mailbox. And you go, well, they're hosting my mail. It's their problem, right? They're going to be like, oh, did you read the terms of service? You have to forensically recover your mailbox. Whoa, you're hosting my mail. Not our problem. So there's forensic issues. There's data recovery issues. Which are two different things, by the way. One's court, one's simply data. There's responsibility, which you mentioned, issues in terms of who owns that data. You're an insurance company, so you probably have health data on people. Okay, so that's HIPAA. Property casualty insurance. Okay, so you have information that at the very least is confidential. It's inappropriate for that to be released. That would be termed as a breach. A breach is what we know as bad. And so who has access to that data?
I just learned something new. Yeah, that's what I've learned. So breaches are bad.
Academia. So who has access to that data? And who has access to that data, oh yeah, we gave them access 6 months ago. What? You don't even have control of the access to the data. So there's all kinds of problems with confidentiality, as you've noticed, availability, and then integrity. When I don't have control of the server that the data is running on, do I have control of its integrity? So there's your full CIA triad. So it's problematic. Can these be overcome? Yes. Okay. You'll notice I have a very forensics-focused mind. I apologize. It's kind of the way I work. Can these be overcome? Yes, but you have to have it contracted that way. And you have to have policies and procedures before the oh crap moment. Because when oh crap happens, it's too late. Okay? Yeah?
How is the spectrum with cloud providers' responsibility? So if I sign up for a cloud and I'm hosting whatever it is, a few articles I have read, it seems that the cloud providers, they don't take their responsibility. Hey, your email's lost, it's not our problem. Somebody hacks into the cloud, steals your data, hey, it's not our problem. It's little stipulations in the contract.
Let me.
It depends on many, many things.
No, it depends on one thing, and that's called money. You get what you pay for, okay? And you get what you contract for. And you get what you have your lawyer read the contract for, all right? And if you buy a VM host from some disreputable merchant, like, I don't know,
Thanks. Thanks.
Because he does VM hosting. It's not cloud, it's just VM hosting. But if you buy a VM host, you have full access. It's yours, right? If you buy a cloud host, and you buy one from, you know, Slice or whatever, and you buy the micro tier on Amazon, what do they give you? You're paying 3 cents. They're not going to give you much, okay? It's like when you go, Gmail, I deleted 3 years worth of mail and I don't know what to do. And wait, I don't pay you. And they go, that's right, click.
Also, you have to remember that with great access comes great responsibility. If you have access to your server, you can screw it up. And the cloud provider doesn't want to be responsible for that. But they have access to your server, and they can also screw it up. So if something gets screwed up, being able to determine whose fault it is will help you determine whether or not you can seek SLA damages.
Or legal damages. Because that does happen. So the answer is, it depends on what you contract. Typically, the more you pay, the better your contract, the more access, the more control, the better it goes. Be aware of paying a lot without anything in your damn contract, okay?
Yeah. Have you seen any contracts then that are actually stipulating any of that?
In terms of stipulating any what?
Like the terms of service you're talking about? Because usually the terms of service with most of these cloud providers is kind of ridiculous, honestly. Like with 5C, like you can get a contract, yeah, but the terms of service will override parts of that. And the terms of services are ridiculous. Like we looked at a vendor, we were looking to spend $50,000, $60,000 a month. So not like tons of money, but a fair amount.
No, that's good money.
Yeah, okay. Somebody wants it, right?
I've seen ridiculous terms of
The terms of services are crazy.
both from our side and from customer side.
Okay.
Customers say, well, you have to patch all of my applications. It's like, well, you wrote your application. How do you want us to patch it and make sure that it doesn't break?
Yeah, I actually have seen a provider locally say that, like, we sell backup services, but just because we sell backup services, you better have backups too, because we won't cover any of that. And
I wouldn't use them.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's written. I can give you that. Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
That's local.
I'd love to see that.
Most backup services will give you some level of assurance that the backups you're paying for are there, but they may not give you monetary damages if your data is lost and your data is worth more than the service you're paying for. So if your backup service is, you know, some amount of money, you might get that back. But what your data was worth, that's what your E&O insurance is for.
It also kind of comes down to integrity at the file level. Yeah, because my company does offer some backup services, but you know, and obviously, you know, that is your backup. But if you're backing up a file that is corrupted, that you can't even open locally, you know, you're going to replicate that corrupted file to us. We're not going to be able to go in and magically put your data back in there.
Sounds like a recent experience.
It might have happened once.
Yes.
Do you think that all these holes that you're seeing that are being mentioned here is just the byproduct of like this just being such like a young industry?
No.
Because the reason I say is because some of these holes can be addressed and be used as a competitive advantage by one company. You
Yes,
know, it's
agreed.
saying we could offer this service for you that they won't offer.
No, absolutely correct. The problem is that we live in a litigious world, litigious country. I see a lot of these holes, control, forensics, terms of service. If you'll notice, all of these holes have been addressed by all of us in terms of liability, even if it's not explicitly stated. Okay? There is some loss of control, yes. And there is some places that will give you back that control if you pay enough to make up for their loss of liability, okay? Or gaining of liability, rather. To me, it's a liability versus price versus stupid lawyer awards. And some lawyers are stupid and some lawyers are very, very smart. Not to say that, you know, some lawyers just, oh, we've got to write something that says that we're never liable for anything, and that's the terms of service in iTunes. That, no joke, iTunes has the terms of service that says you cannot use iTunes to make a nuclear weapon. It's page 96. No, I'm not joking, I read it. Okay? And really? But yeah, it's there. So it's a liability thing. You've got stupid lawyers that write 96-page terms of services. Who here read the iTunes terms of service last time you accepted it?
Forever.
Forever. Who here read EULA last time you accepted them? Yeah, that's what I thought.
There's a snippet of it that's funny that someone else found a screenshot of.
Like me, yes.
cloud services, do you ever, I know with like cell phone companies, literally in your contract agreement that everyone here has probably signed, it explicitly states that they have the capability to change your contract. I don't think anybody in here, if up front, somebody told you, we want you to sign this contract, and it stipulates that we can change this contract at any time.
That's a
something
lot
that's
broader
probably
than
unique to
cloud.
cell phone companies.
Yeah, like,
Read your next concert ticket.
No, not a joke.
Yeah. They have the right to cancel the concert, to change the concert, to change the venue, to not allow you,
Yeah,
to
that's-
avoid the ticket.
So they can
And
tell
these
you
are all
that
in these
you bought
agreements.
$1,000 concert ticket, you bought $1,000 Super Bowl ticket, okay? Because you can see that, right? So you bought $1,000 worth of Super Bowl ticket, and by the way, it's not going to be held
And the power went out.
in New York this year. We decided 10 days before we're holding it in California. Your ticket's non-refundable.
right.
So that's not a cloud issue. That's, again, a
Liability.
stupid lawyer issue.
Get back to cloud issues.
Get back to cloud. So seriously, like academics and cloud?
What?
I'm handing it off to the moderator.
Oh,
Ask some questions.
Guys,
Well, I guess another thing, really, you guys are alliance, and you guys have the matrix, right? So, do you have like suggestions on guidelines on what to keep on the cloud and what not to? One of my concerns is, you know, if I have that private confidential information, I can't be handing it off to somebody else. I have to keep that under my control.
oh dear God. Now you're talking about third-party doctrine and lawyers. Are there any lawyers in the room?
No, no,
Lawyers. Lawyers have legal practice management software, and if there's going to cloud-based services, there's a lawyer-client confidentiality or privilege, and if you put your case information, your practice information into the cloud, are you then handing it over to a third party? Does it leave privilege?
in theory, if you properly encrypted your data, it shouldn't matter where you put it.
I gotta actively use it though, and performance issues at that point, I can't throw it into the cloud.
No. That's not a problem. That's an opportunity for you to tell your boss you need to test your computers.
so there is guidance out there, not based on what type of data is it, but what's your threshold for risk in your company. So that's kind of where the Cloud Security Alliance has taken this. It's not, we're not going to dictate and say, well, you can't put PII out there or PHI or anything like that. Sure you can, if you're willing to tolerate certain risks. So it's more of the education of what are the risks to putting it in cloud. So you have to understand things like, for Amazon, for example, they're going to put your data over in Europe and in South America and in Asia, because that's just part of their replication cycle. So are you willing to tolerate that risk from both a business standpoint, from a legal standpoint, from a compliance standpoint? Can your data leave the country? So that's where you're going to start looking at cloud and using cloud services. It's not so much can I, can't I, but what is my business willing to tolerate? I joked earlier about the chief financial officer. Chief financial officers can be the biggest asset to people when they want to use the cloud, because they want to save money. But they also know the risks that are involved financially and what they're willing to take financially, where when you're talking to really smart technical people, we can't do that because it's not secure enough. The financial person may say, but we have insurance for that. We can cover that loss.
You notice that we really don't talk tech very much. This has all been business and liability and risk and stuff like that, compliance. And it's interesting that that's the case. I mean, why are we not talking tech? Why are we not geeking out and dropping 0 days and crap like that?
Because it's cloud, man. There's no tech left.
And the answer is that there's very exciting things happening in the cloud, but we're all pretty much understand what happens when I have a physical server. We all pretty much understand the risks, the possibilities, the liabilities, everything else. In the cloud, these things are still being explored, decided, standardized. And that's what the Cloud Security Alliance is doing.
And one of the things that's changing very rapidly is, from a tech perspective, from security background people like us and many of you out there, we've known what you're supposed to do in the enterprise. A lot of times we haven't done it because our brick and mortar are very safe. Nobody can get into my data center. Nobody's going to get into these servers. We're now taking technology and security concepts that have been around for years and finally implementing them in cloud. Two-factor authentication, hosted key cryptography, all sorts of things that had been around for years, but we hadn't done because A, it was expensive, it was a lot of overhead, machines were too slow, and I'm really good at security. My perimeter's secure. I don't need to take care of this stuff on the inside. Well, it's not my perimeter anymore, it's somebody else's. So that's changed. We had a question back here somewhere. Yes.
Well, just you were talking how the CFO could be a driver because they want to save costs, but really, if you're trying to do a cloud-based solution, and you said, oh, we could transfer the responsibility with insurance, but the problem with cloud-based services is if you outsource to a cloud-based provider, your name is still on the front page of the paper if your cloud service provider screws up, or the cloud service provider is the second line, and your name is above it because you happen to be the schmuck who didn't negotiate the contract. So really, the CFO is looking for costs, and it is about the business. So really, you need to get the senior board in there so that you can get the legal team to sign off on the bean counters prior to the CFO. They're counting beans. The techie wants to get the job done. You've got to get your business folks and your legal folks all on the same page.
Yeah, the good CFOs that I've worked for, though, also think about the costs after a problem.
It's important to understand
Most
the
of them
whole cost.
don't.
The good ones I've worked for have.
So let me bring this back for just a second. So the point is that as we determine the direction, the methodologies that cloud use to provide security, safety, confidentiality, integrity, and availability to our data, our systems, our applications in the cloud, this will shape the roadmap for the technology used to build the cloud. Academia is bringing forth the people that build applications in the cloud, as David mentioned. If you don't help us shape the direction of the roadmap, it's going to go away that we can't anticipate, we can't control, and we can't do crap with. Excuse me a little. So, as you learn how to build on AWS and Rackspace and private clouds and little VMs and whatever else, in your classes, in your schools, in your sessions, you have to help us learn, understand, build, and control that roadmap.
The flip side of that is you have to understand business and how businesses work. They don't work on perfect solutions answering every question. They work on the almighty dollar. So 80% is usually more than enough of a project being done. I was at a session, a meeting, actually one of yours. We were talking about cellular technology, something I'm very familiar with. And a PhD student said, well, why don't we just buy phones, rip off the operating system, put a hardened operating system on there and give it out to people because then it'll be secure. We'll be managing it. Because everybody will throw that away, go out and buy their own phone and start using it. So there's a reality that, yes, he was right from a technology standpoint. Operating systems from Apple, from Google, they're broken. But you're going on, harden it up, take away all administrative privileges from the end user, and you've got yourself a nice hardened device. But nobody's going to use it because their alternative is go buy one.
No Angry Birds? Chuck.
So it's both sides. Academia is bringing a lot of really good ideas to business to help make cloud a success. But they have to also learn from business how to adapt those perfect ideas into an imperfect world.
And I remember that session. And the gentleman, who by the way is a genius, who said this,
Absolutely.
said, but what, just tell them not to. Don't tell them not to throw it away. This is the phone they have to use. And then we laughed. And said, well, they lost it accidentally. And they went to buy an iPhone because they have to. They need to get work done, right? And he went, wait, they'll do that?
Bigger works for a company where you're selling execs have different rules and more toys.
Bigger works. Trust me, your C-level execs at your company, if your company is a medium to large company, your C-level execs operate under a different set of rules. Does anybody know what WebSense is?
Yep.
Okay, how many people think that the CEO has the password to WebSense? Bet you're wrong.
Mine doesn't.
Who has this? Which of your companies the CEO has a password to get through WebSense, or his computer has an automatic bypass filter? I bet you everyone does.
Not mine.
Then he goes and covers his phone.
Oh, probably.
Has a password or is automatically whitelisted that it's not monitored?
Same
One or the
idea.
other.
Is it blocked by WebSense when they go to their favorite website?
If not, they tether their phone to their work laptop and they get around it anyway. And if you think I'm wrong, I'm right. I don't care who your CEO is. I'm right. I guarantee it. I've never met a CEO that doesn't go, hey, put this on the network. Wait, fine. Right?
I pay your paycheck, don't I?
What's that?
I pay your paycheck, don't I?
Yeah, you're not gonna argue this.
What's that signature on your paycheck? Do you want it to be there next week? Yeah. So, yeah, no, please.
Who's addressing some of the forensic challenges in cloud? Is that something CSA is doing, or?
NIST has a cloud forensics unit and call every 2 weeks. I'm on it every once in a while. When it managed to be every time I have a conference call, they're having theirs. But there's a forensics unit in the Cloud Security Alliance.
We're doing some also.
There's significant numbers of people that are addressing that. Forensics is huge. There's a great one. You can provision AWS instances like that, right? Okay. Somebody provisioned 100 of them just real quick and then scanned the storage. Came up with social security numbers, came up with insurance numbers, came up with names, data. Because unless they scrub the disks between when they drop it and provision it again, or just move it to another place because they need to balance stuff, is their data still on that disk? There could be. Okay? So, I mean, even in non-sensitive stuff, yeah, Social Security is sensitive, but even if you're just talking about just some client records that you don't think are sensitive, well, hey, there's potentiality that I can provision scan, spend $50. I might get some interesting information off Amazon, couldn't I? Okay? So forensics is actually a very large challenge, and that's why a lot of people go to private cloud, where it's a cloud, but it's sort of, think of it more like a SAN rather than a cloud, if that makes sense. And that way you can scrub it at your leisure and at your will. And if you have sensitive information on the cloud, please have a domestic-only clause. Oh, dear God.
Or you can make sure that your contract includes the disposition of the data when you're done with the storage. You can make sure that your data does get wiped before your storage gets allotted to somebody else.
I'm also going to talk about one forensic incident I had recently where we had a server, cloud server, a physical server, go down. They sent us the hard drives to recover. The hard drives were recovered, and we actually sent them out because it needed some machinery we didn't have. And they called us up and they go, which company is yours? Well, they said there's 7 companies' data on this drive. So even if you have a catastrophic failure, you should probably have a clause in your contract that that drive needs to be physically destroyed rather than being sent out. Now, luckily, they didn't because our company needed the data. But still, it's kind of one of those things. We shouldn't have had access to that company's data. It sucks. What do you do with the drives when you're in your servers when they die?
35 pass DoD equivalent secure erase triggered by ATA security. So the drive itself actually does the erasing. It's not like a DBAN or anything else. And then typically take the platters out and drill a couple holes in them.
That's done. That's done.
I don't want to have to worry about that.
What do you do when you're going to reuse the media?
It depends on how it's used. So typically, if it's a dedicated disk, we just do the 35 pass secure erase. Because if you can get something back from that, you're probably not in a position where you're going to be buying from us because you're working for like 3-letter agencies.
If you get back something with a single erase,
Oh,
right. That's Yankee
So-
build is most.
Typically, if it's a dedicated disk, that's basically it because that takes, what, 2, maybe 3 hours to do properly. If it's on a SAN or anything, deprovision the array, reprovision it, re-scrambles all the data and everything else, and then do a secure erase over the line. So, but basically, it would be impressive.
So you do the government pass then? You do it 35 times, you do the right zeros or random data?
Random data.
And then you get done in 2 hours.
Yeah. If you triggered by ATA security, every hard disk that's manufactured in the past like 12 years has the internal commands to do it itself.
Okay.
So you hook it up to a little tiny embedded box. It sends the signal to the drive internally, and the drive does it for you.
Oh.
It's not D-band, it's not a dedicated PC or anything else.
That also gets the bad blocks list,
Yes.
which D-band does not get. I was going to ask a question about what BIOS you had to do that, because most PCs that's locked out on,
Yeah.
but you have a special.
Yeah.
Box.
Newegg sells these little tiny secure erase boxes for $200.
Okay.
It's a steal for how cheap it is.
Good question.
Use that.
Yes.
If anybody's considered this in the Cloud Security Alliance about the distribution of solar energy now being managed by third parties in the cloud. So like your solar power, house or your business being managed in the cloud by a cloud service that's third party.
Well,
The Cloud Security Alliance Cloud Control Matrix does include NERC-CIP, which is the North American Energy Alliance.
it's the security measures needed for energy generation and transmission authorities, companies, etc., inside North America over a certain size. So if it's for your house, not necessarily. And if you're talking about you're worried that somebody's going to hack into your solar power array.
No, I just think it's interesting.
Oh, okay, sorry. It is interesting. There's a ridiculous amount of data in the cloud, and trust me, there's data in there you never, ever, ever wanted to have out there. But it's out there. And as younger generations are finding out, and they will find out, some data should not, in the heat of a drunken moment, be put onto Facebook.
That's why California has laws that will allow you to retroactively scrub your data from your minor years.
Yeah.
But keep in mind that you can often not really ever delete something with on the internet. So that will only go so
Beyonce
far.
found that out. Okay. Good points. Good points. So again, we urge you to join the Cloud Security Alliance. We'd love to have some younger members. We'd love to have some academic members. We'd love to have some collegiate members. We'd love to have some colleges as member organizations. The
We're
Delaware
always
Valley,
looking for places to host meetings. Colleges have lots of space.
we got this space. Colleges, universities, community colleges, organizations, we'd love to have you as members of the Cloud Security Alliance. We'd love to have your input. We really want that academic connection because we really want to make a difference in terms of not only getting information from the people that are building the newest and most interesting cloud applications, but we also want to give information in terms of business knowledge and business experience to those people to let them understand why this application might not fly. If you say it this way, the CFO will understand it better. And if you build it that way, you're going to add liability or decrease liability, or let's share some experience and knowledge here is basically what we're saying.
How many of you use the cloud at home for something you do on the internet?
Anybody who's got your hands down, you're lying.
For those of you that have your hands down, do you use webmail? Do you use any social media service like Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook?
Do you have a phone with a browser? Next.
Is there anyone with their hands still down?
Do you have an
You're all probably
Xbox
using
or
the
a...
cloud in some way. How about your place of work? How do they use the cloud currently, and how do you think they should use it?
How many of you have a WilMU email address?
A what email address?
Wilmington University email address or some collegiate email address. Okay, you have Gmail. Gmail made a deal with most every college out there. They actually host all of the collegiate email, or 90% of it.
Because they want your data.
Because remember, it doesn't cost the college anything, and they want a way to access you as alumni for the rest of your bloody life. So they give you your collegiate email address forever. Okay.
And as we've recently found out, their private lines are not encrypted.
Yes. What's that? What?
Private lines.
They're working on it.
They're working on it.
If the service is free, you're probably the product.
So.
One-liners out there.
Oh, I love that line. If the service is free, you're not the consumer, you're the product. Love that line. So true. Yes?
So do you see, like, in the future, do you see all the cloud services going either like split where less less sensitive information is hosted like a third-party service, and more private information is hosted like on a private cloud. We're going all private cloud to kind of avoid the issues with liabilities.
I think people will start to make choices based on the sensitivity of their data, similar to how you may secure your house. You're going to use a decent lock if you have good stuff to protect. You're going to use a better lock if you have something really top secret. You're going to choose your cloud provider and your level of encryption similar to that.
It used to be, what can I afford in my data center? What can I afford in terms of people to run my data center? What can I afford to put in? How much fiber can I afford to put in? That kind of thing, right? It was about cost, it was about ability, it was about time, it was about effort, it was about project planning, that kind of thing. As Janice said, it's going to be about data classification. It's not going to be so much about the mechanism, it's going to be about the data. I have PII that if it gets out, it could be identity theft and I'm a billionaire, all right? You're going to want to protect that. You're going to put it in a private cloud or a server that's turned off under concrete, okay, that kind of thing. I have data that I don't care about, throw it up on Facebook. I have data that, and various levels in between. My trade secret data lives in my data center because it's $1 billion trade secret data. I have trade secret data, but I can buy a private cloud that's incredibly heavily encrypted and very well protected, but it's transparent to me. All I know is that it's protected. I don't care about the mechanisms. They're handling it. I just pay for it.
So I'm going to disagree.
Really? It's okay, you can be wrong.
Both of your answers were pretty much, if my data is really, really sensitive, I'm going to keep it. If it's less sensitive, I'm going to put it in the cloud.
I said you're going to choose the level of protection you have on it.
I said you could put it in the cloud. You're just going to pay for more protection mechanisms on it. I said private cloud. I said but heavily encrypted or whatever else, right? You did say that.
All right. I'm going to say it's going to be more of a hybrid approach, where you may keep the data on a private cloud, but it's still going to interact with public clouds. What we're going to see more and more of is the handling of the encryption keys and how we handle them, how we utilize them, how we replace them. That's going to happen more frequently. It's going to happen on every transaction. We're going to find that instead of encrypting data and moving the entire data out there, you're going to encrypt the data and move a fragment of the data out there, which is enough to reconstruct, so that when you're viewing it through the cloud, you're able to use the cloud's processing powers and speed without necessarily pushing all of your private data out there. So it is a private. It isn't a private cloud. It isn't a public cloud. It's going to be a hybrid approach where you're utilizing both private technology, whether it's a server in your infrastructure or a private cloud, and you're using public cloud technology to get the speed and the availability of it. But you're going to be using a lot of different types of key technology and utilizing key technology a lot differently in order to make that happen. That's what I think. So.
Interesting. It's a thought. I don't know.
Yes, other thoughts on that just came to mind about infrastructure. Now, since Google's building out the fiber network, a lot of the more traditional ISPs are kind of reluctant to build out these higher speed networks. Do you think the country's really going to have the infrastructure to support everyone using cloud services for everything all the time?
Hey, ISP guy.
We could talk about this for a couple of weeks.
Do we know we need to go back to the first telegraphs and how that works out?
Yeah, so back in the day, they laid these like clay tubes.
That's plumbing, didn't try electricity.
No, they're used for a lot more than plumbing. Sometimes it's the same tube. So a lot of it all comes down to money. Who's your ISP? Comcast, Verizon,
the local one.
Okay, so you're one of the few, but realistically, Comcast, Verizon, Time Warner are all the big ones. And what's the average residential ISP bill every month? $50?
50 to 100.
Realistically, for laying all the cable, providing you a modem, customer service, and everything else they do, it's really not that much. They're only making a couple bucks every month. So a lot of them are trying to find other ways to get money. And a lot of that is trying to charge the other end, where companies that offer these cloud services You know, so they're trying to charge you for your access. They're trying to charge these cloud providers, Netflix and everybody else, for service as well. They're trying to make money on both ends. So as companies buy access on the other end, that's when they're starting to add additional capacity, and they actually take it seriously. Until that happens, it's this whole net neutrality thing that kind of goes back and forth. We're not getting paid to build the additional infrastructure. Why should we do it? So it's kind of a nasty battle. But
can I throw one point out there? Who here has dial-up internet? Okay, you're all spoiled.
What was the last year that you used dial-up internet, if ever?
Did some of you ever use dial-up?
Did you know that more than half the country still does?
What, US?
Yeah.
Depends on where you are, though. Like,
Sure.
Right.
Metropolitan areas
Exactly
don't.
correct.
There's a lot of countries that don't.
You know those
Your
places we call
satellite.
flyover states?
Yeah.
Most of them are on dial-up
Midwest.
because they can't get broadband. It's too far for DSL. There isn't a cable build-out. It's a bloody long distance. When you realize that all of, what was the statistic I just read? Like all of Germany fits in New Jersey. We're pretty close to it. Why don't we have the speeds that they have in Germany? All of South Korea fits in like, let's see, South Korea fits in, I think, Delaware and Rhode Island combined.
The irony there is most of Europe and Asia and South America don't have wired infrastructure.
It's a good point. They're
They're
heavily
on
reliant
high-speed
on wireless. They're heavily, a lot of them are heavily reliant on wireless, but South Korea has 100 megabit to the house for like $30 a month.
In the cities.
In the cities and in the surrounding areas. But that is most of the country. It's a tiny little country. We have a lot longer distances to cover. And you're going to string, 4G wireless out to, East Judson Futz in South Dakota.
For that one customer?
For that one customer, I can understand the company saying, no, screw it, they get dial-up, have a nice day. Okay? And so in one sense, we whine, I only have 70 megabit Fios, and it's like, get out of here. But on the other hand, it's like, wait a minute, in a lot of places they have 100 megabits to the house for nothing. What the heck? Google Fibers in Kansas City, or, like, yes, we're going to give you 1 gigabit for $35 a month. And you don't think the traffic's examined? I'm sorry, what was that? Oh, that's right, think about it the other way. When it's free or ridiculously cheap, you're still the product.
But you still have it.
There's a website called
I
Bash.
really don't care.
There's a website called bash.org where they put all sorts of funny things from IRC on. And there was my favorite one is 1946. Do you think we can outfit every American with a radio tracking beacon? No, they'd never go for that. 2010, I can has 2 iPhones? And it's true! So, but you still have it. You're a consumer!
Well, I mean, for private use, it's one thing.
No.
for, like,
Then
residential.
you'll get the ads from the interesting places. So,
I mean, I wouldn't really buy into, like, Google Fiber for a business use so much.
you don't think businesses are going to?
Do you
There are
understand
businesses,
gigabit?
there are
It's like,
incubators in houses in those towns because of Google Fiber. A guy bought a house and put startups in it, 6 startups at a time in a house, because it has Google Fiber in the house. And the server rack is in the basement, not a joke. It's happened 4 times so far that I know.
Okay, do you understand how Facebook and Google and now Twitter learn about people? They're not watching you go to porn sites. They're watching the words that you say, how you say the words, the people you're interacting with. It's the gathering of all that big data, and then they analyze that. And it's amazing how accurate they are to find out your age, your sex, your hair color, your likes, your dislikes, and they never have to once understand what any of that is. But they know it anyway. There's been studies done where people have gone online impersonating other people, young children, older people, different sex, different nationalities. But then they surf as themselves, as they normally would. And they know it. So you're saying it's just personal information. It's just the games I play. It's just the places I serve. That's exactly what they want you to do, and they want you to do more of it.
Sure.
So that they can, because you're a great product.
Not only are you a consumer for the ads they feed you so you can buy stuff, but they can sell your personal information to other people. Axiom, AXCIOM, has at least 5 pieces of personal information about each of you. I think it's up to 11 now. Everybody in this room.
Well, this conversation is really scared me. I don't think I want to be part of cloud anymore.
Yeah, really. Look, we're trying to make it safer for us. We're trying to make it safer for you. We're trying to help get you to help us. So give us a hand and join.
Yeah.
Cloud Security Alliance, Delaware Valley. Please look us up.
I have cards. If people want them, you can email me your contact info. Give me your card if you have one, and we can point you in the right direction to get you onto our websites. We're on LinkedIn as Cloud Security Alliance, Del Val.
Del Val, yeah. And
where
Twitter
else?
is
Twitter's.
CSA Del Val. CSA Del Val.
Any last questions? Thank you, everyone. Thank you.